Fields of study and branches of biology. How life started in the planet. Biology, which is the study of life, has different types of fields. One of them is zoology, that is the study of animals. Botany, that is the study of plants. Microbiology, that is the study of microscopic organisms. Genetics, that is the study of genetic material. Biochemistry, which is the study of chemical reactions. And ecology, study of the interactions between the environment and organisms. It also has different types of branches. Some of them are anatomy, that is the study of body structures. Anthropology, study of human societies and cultures and their development. Botany, study of plants. Embryology, study of embryos and their development. Biomedicine, science that applies biological and psychological principles to clinical practice. Biochemistry, study of chemical reactions. Virology, study of viruses. Immunology, study of immune system in all organisms. Cytology, study of the microscopic appearance of cells. Genetics, study of heredity and the variation of inherited characteristics. Histology is the study of microscopic structure of tissues, and zoology, the study of the animals. There are so many myths of how life started or originate, but the most common or most popular are the spontaneous generation by a supreme being like God, electrical activity, originate in volcanoes or at bottom of the oceans, transport by meteorites, and base of DNA and RNA. The conclusion made in the classroom was that we are not sure about how life originated, but the one that is more believed is the myth of the DNA and RNA.
Characteristics of living things and differences in prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Living things have 8 different characteristics. Starting with them, we have organization. Living things have a high degree of complexity because they are constituted by biomolecules, and every living thing can synthesize things. All living things have a genetic code that have sequences indicating that all living things have a common ancestral origin. The next common factor all living things have is response to stimuli. Living things respond to stimuli like light, sound, temperatures, chemical substances, etc. Every living being has homeostasis, which is the set of self-regulation phenomena that lead to the conservation of steadiness in the composition and properties of the internal environment of an organism. Metabolism is something that all beings which have a life share in common. Metabolism involves the destruction of molecules and creation of new ones. Growth is also something that every living thing experiences. Growth implies the incorporation of new biomolecules into an organism, which is synthesized for that purpose. Reproduction is something necessary for every living being. Some living things are either sexual, asexual, or parasexual, but despite the form of reproduction, it's still necessary. Adaptation, ability, and evolution is what keeps living things alive. The world is in constant change, so as the world changes, we living things have to adapt to those changes. Moving to the prokaryotic cells, things have to adapt to those changes. Moving to the prokaryotic cells, prokaryotes are cells without nucleus, with one of the most differences being that their general material is found in cytoplasm and not called nucleoid. Contrary to that, there are 2 types of eukaryotic cells, the animal and plant. The history of the microscope is the cell and cell theory. History of the microscope. Humans have always wanted to see beyond what his eyes show him, and that wish him applies both to what is far away and what is very small. The observation of the world of tiny things began with the invention of magnifying lenses, which are very rudimentary versions of the microscope, now known as the compound microscope because it combines more than one magnifying glass. The person who invented the microscope is uncertain. Perhaps Zachary Jensen in 1590, Galileo Galilei in 1609, or Cornelius Drebbel were the inventors. History of the cell. The history of the cell begins with Robert Hooke and Anthony van Leeuwenhoek. Discovered the animalcules, then Robert Brown discovered the nucleus in plant. After that, Jonas Purkinje referred to that liquid that fills as the cell protoplasm. Matthias Light and Friedrich Swann invented on vegetables and animals made up of cells, and Rudolf Virchow said that every cell comes from a pre-existing one. Continuing with the cell theory, the cellular theory affirms that the cell is morphologically and structural of all living things, or saying in other words that all living things are made up of cells. Omnicellula means that every cell comes from a pre-existing one, the cell and the physiological unit of life. All vital functions take place within the cells.
Different forms of cell transportation. Passive transport is a movement of ions and other atomic or molecular substances across cell membranes without need of energy input. Active transport is the movement of molecules across a membrane from a region of lower concentration to a region of higher concentration. Diffusion is one form of passive transport that doesn't require the expenditure of cellular energy. Facilitated diffusion is passive transport that uses integral membrane proteins to help larger charged hydrophilic and polar molecules across a concentration gradient. Endocytosis, the taking of matter by a living cell by invagination of its membrane to form a vacuole. Exocytosis, a process by which the content of a cell vacuole are released to the exterior through fusion of the vacuole membrane with the cell membrane. Levels of organization. Molecules. Molecules are made of atoms, the smallest unit of chemical elements. Cell. A cell is the basic unit of life. There are two kinds of cells. Plant cells, which have a rigid cell wall made of cellulose molecules, and animal cells, which have flexible cell membranes. Tissues. Tissues are made of cells that work together to perform a certain task. Organism. An organism is a recognizable, self-contained individual. Population. A population is a group of multiple organisms of the same species within a specific area. Community. A community consists of all the different species within a certain area. Organ. An organ is a system of tissues that work together on a larger scale to do certain jobs within an animal's body. Organ system. An organ system is a group of organs that work together to perform specific bodily issues.
Hi, my name is Natalia Sanchez and I'm going to present the topic of homeostasis and organ systems. The term homeostasis comes from the union of two Greek words, which in Spanish are translated as homeos and stasis. The first means equal or similar, and the second one means state or stability. In the biological context, it refers to the quality of organisms to preserve their internal conditions despite the changing conditions on its exterior. Each cell will take care of its self-regulation, that is, maintaining its homeostasis. This preservation of internal conditions is achieved thanks to metabolism. The balance is reached thanks to the mechanisms of self-regulation that every living thing has. Homeostasis is the ability to maintain a relatively stable internal state that persists despite changes in the world outside. All living organisms, from plants to puppies to people, must regulate their internal environment to process energy and ultimately survive. If your blood pressure skyrockets or body temperature plummets, for example, your organ systems may struggle to do their jobs and eventually fail. An organ system is a group of anatomical structures that work together to perform a specific function or task. The 11 organ systems of the body are the integumentary, muscular, skeletal, nervous, circulatory, lymphatic, respiratory, endocrine, urinary, reproductive, and digestive. Although each of your 11 organ systems has a unique function, each organ system also depends directly or indirectly on all of the others.
define it as a social, mental, and a social well-being and a resource of a living a full life. It refers not only to the absence of disease, but ability to recover and bounce back from illness and other problems. On the contrary, we have a disease, which is a condition of a person, animal, or plant in which the body or structure is harmed because an organ or part is unable to work as it usually does. Adolescence is a stage characterized by the transition between childhood and adulthood, which implies physically conjunctive and psychological changes. This occurs approximately between the age of 11 and 19 years. The teenagers feel as if they were in the middle of the two worlds. One of the children that is the games and another were adults using her obligations and responsibilities. Through the adolescence, they have a physical change like the development of sexual reproductive organs, body hair growth, voice change, height change, etc. etc. Also, there are mental changes like decision taking, judgment mind, emotional self-control, etc. Living a healthy life can help prevent chronic disease and long-term illness. Feeling good about yourself and taking care of your health can improve from your self-esteem right from your body. Some factors you to take into a healthy life are power, attitude, exercise, and feeling temperate, nutrition, self-care, and coping skills, and active devices. yeah.